Hello, everybody, and welcome to ProblemSolvHer podcast, a friendly, innovative, fun, cool, safe space to share your experiences, your stories. I'm your co-host, Chloe, along with my girl,
Dagmar.
Dagmar's in the house, Chloe's in the house, the thunder's in the house. We're in two different places in Florida. We're both having thunder right now at the same time. Let's see what happens. Let's let it.
Living with the thunder, I mean.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's so much excitement going on for both of us right now. The thunder is like literally what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the answer. It's exactly what's going on.
Isn't thunder a symbol of clearing the air?
Maybe that's true. I always, thunder. Well, it's like the rain and the thunder, and then the sun comes out, right? So yeah, maybe it is. But I also see it as like, the gods are speaking.
Right. The interesting thing is, and then we start with the topic, the thunder in Germany is so different than compared to the thunder in Florida. Here, the thunder, especially during the hurricane times, you think like, oh my God, the world is going down.
It is. It's
Especially
very
when you have
dramatic.
to drive through it.
Well, I've been there in Jamaica. It's even more dramatic there than it is here because that's the real Caribbean, right? This is like, as far as the US goes, I would think that Florida is the closest to the Caribbean just because of certain parts of the nature here and the topography. But I've been in hurricanes in Jamaica where, like you said, it sounds like the earth is shattering. It's so massive. And I had one time in my brother's room, there was a hurricane and we didn't know what it was going to be. Sometimes we would batten up the whole house and you have to like really board it up, nails and the whole thing. And it's like level 1 hurricane, nothing happened. But this time we're a tree. And this was a fairly large house, a concrete made very well. A tree went through my brother's room on the top where the skylight was. And I was walking by and it missed me by like 2 feet. So
Hey, that's a
yeah,
perfect bridge to our topic today, the meaning
there
of
you go.
life and the meaning of life purpose.
There's a famous song. God, who sings it? Do you know where you're going? Do you know the things that life's been showing you, knowing you? Gosh, I have to look it up after. I don't have the answer. I can put together in my collective brain on a highly conscious level, not just a surface level, of what I think maybe it is, but I don't know if I could say definitively. I don't know if anyone really has the answer. I don't even know if I believe in the Big Bang Theory, right? Which is, here we are, there's humans. Do I believe that Adam and Eve had one child and that created, 6 billion people, 8 billion? Is that where we are now? 8, 6.5? I mean, so I first have to think of how did we even get here? That's my first question. Obviously, humans derived from Homo sapiens, which are apes. I don't know. I think that I'd like to think that we're all here for a very specific, different reason. Obviously, people are on this earth all for different reasons. Nobody's is the same. That would be like saying every person is alike. I would like to think that we're all here to challenge ourselves, to do great in this world, whatever that may be, to love our families and the people around us and try to be empathetic and compassionate. But I don't really know what the actual meaning and purpose of humans, I'm talking specifically humans, because I agree with a lot of scientists that there are another life force, whether it's aliens, and obviously in the oceans and the waters, there's a whole world under there. So as far as humans are concerned, I have to believe we're here to do something good. But I don't have the answer. Honest, that's the honest truth.
I'm just sharing what I thought, what my life purpose is, and what I thought, what the meaning of life is. As I was a child, I didn't think about it at all. It was not a topic for me at all. I just lived in the moment and lived in the presence. And as a child, like, you still could, like, play outside. Was not like today. Like, you could play outside. You were running to the village on your own, 5, 6 years old, totally normal. You went into the forests and you played hide and seek, and you explored the plants in the forest and the wood, and you used your imagination to build things. You played in the little creeks, and like in Germany, there's still glass and ceramic from thousands of years ago. So you find all these treasures, and this really what life was. You lived in the here and now. You didn't worry about the future. You had no past regrets or guilt or things like that. As I was becoming a teenager, I started reading books about how women lived in other countries, in Asia and Africa, in the Middle East, in the United States, in other countries in Europe. And that was the first time where I realized I lived in this illusion that what I experienced, I thought that's the world. I thought that's how the world is. And then by reading the stories of how these women lived in all the different countries, I'm like, oh my God, there's a whole different world out there. Then I became a young adult, and from the belief how I grew up, the meaning of life and the life purpose was you get married, you have children, you buy a house, you work for 45 years, and then you retire. You do gardening, perhaps a little bit traveling, you get old and you die. And I lived this life for many, many years. And I had this growing in me that I felt, oh my God, this cannot be everything. Like working 8 hours, coming home, cooking, watching television, sleeping, meeting friends over the weekend, traveling once a year, and doing this for 45 years until you retire. It cannot be everything in life. And there was a point where I had like this aha moment where I realized it makes me really happy to help others, and especially to feed others. Like, this is something in me. I love feeding living beings. If it's plants, animals, humans, it makes me so happy. It gives me, like, I guess, this inner mother nurturing, seeking. And that for sure is part of my life today, where I feel what really makes me happy is also a purpose for me being here, to do good every day, to do good deeds every day, to be the best person I can be, to help others, other living beings. And then on the other side, I'm doing a lot of spiritual work and spiritual development, spiritual growth. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and interviews where they talk about we lost the awareness we had as children, where we could just be in the present. We didn't have to program us for the present. We didn't have to remind us, don't forget to smell the roses. It was just who we were as children. And yesterday I heard a story about, was an Eastern culture story where somebody was meditating for 30 years and never moved the body positions. They were in a dark room. They were not aware of anything accessing the room. And then suddenly they realized there was an end right in front of them. They could see this end, and they could see the beauty of this living being, which they perhaps never would have recognized in their daily life, right? Going to work, coming home, gardening. It was just kind of not existing for us because we are always a thought ahead of what we're doing. And so more I'm internally processing that, so more I'm aware of going back to the childhood and being present and seeing the beauty of the presence.
I'm processing everything that you just said because there's a few points that I totally resonate with. First of all, the way you explain that, it had so much color to it. So I appreciate you for breaking it down that way. And the thing that stood out for me most was as a child, because like you, I have so many incredible childhood memories. A lot of people don't want to go back to their childhood, but you had with your sisters and in the forest and, all these things. And like you could just be free. I had very similar experiences between New York and Jamaica, which are two completely different, most drastically different places of growing up, and specifically things that you pointed out about just the purpose, just being free and not worrying. And I remember we had a boat in New York on Long Island at my parents' club, which was right down the street. So I could walk there anytime. It wasn't like I had to wait and get a ride and who's taking me and let's go already. And then we were of the age, Dylan and I were allowed, we would just walk down there together as long as we're both together. It was just along the seawall and just like going to the club, seeing everyone and swimming in the pool and just like with our friends and going on the boat and just like life was so easy. Like there's no worries. It's like the ease, like life is just so easy. It's just so much fun. And the same thing in Jamaica, like just going to the beach down the street from my house, seeing all the same people and just, having someone chop up a coconut and just drink it right there, jelly water and rundown and jerk chicken and all these things. It was just like, oh my God, life is so easy. And then you become an adult. And then your brain starts to really form because remember, not until I think women it's 23 and men it's 26. And then all of a sudden your brain is like fully formed and you're like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? Then you have worries and you have to bills and you have to make money and you have to do all these things. And like you said, like everyone, oh, women have to get married, they have to have children, they have to reproduce, we have to do this. And then the pressures come, and then you're like, what's the meaning? What's the purpose? What am I doing? But like you, I grew up where my parents always had a lot of dinner parties. My mom loved feeding people and putting together these beautiful tables. And I would go and I'd help her in the dining room and I'd come up with a theme and what silverware, what china is she going to use and the tablecloth and, you know, just which glassware and all these things and just making sure that everything smelled good and looked good and what flowers were going to go on the table. And that's probably why I did events for so many years. I just loved producing those types of things and making people happy like you. And there was this elderly person in Trader Joe's the other day that was coming out and she was kind of struggling. She had the cart and the thing. And I was like, hi, sweetie, do you want any help? And she was like shocked that I asked her. And I was like, can I help you? And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'll put the groceries in the trunk for you. She's probably late 80s. And she's like, you're a darling. And it was like, that's just the right thing to do. You see someone who's older, you're still younger, and you help them. And like, that's why I ran a nonprofit for so many years. That's why you did humanitarian work as well. So those things give great purpose. And with the kitties and taking care of them. And, Oliver's like having 5 dogs, he's very hands-on, if you will. So those things give great pleasure and there's meaning and spending time with family and people that you love. That's the meaning. But in terms of the broader picture of that, of what's the purpose of all humans, why are we even here to begin with? You know, what are we doing here? And to watch how things have evolved over time. Obviously, we weren't here yet, but just watching from how technology has developed, even from when I was younger, I think we had they were just starting to use computers in college, maybe, driving by just using a map or calling a friend and be like, can I get directions to where I'm going? And horse and buggy, there were no cars. People just used, how to use horse and buggy or railway. Just the evolution of time and what's going on. And now they're saying cars may fly in the next few years. We're not going to drive on the road in the future. It's going to be like Jetsons. I mean, who knows? But I'm very like you. I'm very nostalgic. I'm very old school in a lot of ways. My parents refused to use Google Maps. My dad has a souped up, fancy schmancy Mercedes, and they say it has the best technology. On every year, it wins this award. And I was like, this is going to be so easy. I'm going to program all this for you guys, and you're going to do it. All you literally have to say is, "Hey, Mercedes, take me to boop. Hey, Mercedes, take me home." They refuse to do it. I put the Bluetooth, I connected it on their car. They won't do it. My mom writes down the directions before they go anywhere still. But maybe that's a part of their purpose is like we are from a different generation and we're going to still live like this. We don't want this technology in our lives.
No, perhaps it's part of their love language, traveling together, that your dad is the man in control and your mom gives him directions.
I mean, there's a very big fair point to that. But I always say make life simpler. Just plug it in. They're like, no, if they want to stay at a hotel, they don't just book it online. They have to call first. They have to speak to the general manager. They have a lot of questions about the property, whatever it may be, which I actually appreciate. But the purpose and the meaning, and like you said, I feel like people get very caught up in the minutiae of all these things you have to do. And it would be, I would have a major culture shock being in New York City, working 12 hours a day, especially around the time of our annual gala, which I did for 8 years in a row. And then going to Jamaica on like, whether it's like Hanukkah, Christmas break, or Passover, Easter, whatever it was for 10 days. And then going back to New York, it was like, what is the purpose? What am I doing here? Why am I in New York? From this very chilled, low key, soon come vibe, everything Chris and to like, whoa, what am I doing? You know, and this like very New York, gotta go in a rush, move out of my way kind of mentality from everybody's feeling iron. So it's like, there's a lot. But why do you think we're even here to begin with? All humans. What are we
Then
doing?
a long time ago, I thought about it and I decided for myself, there's a reason for why all living beings are here. Like everybody, humans, animals, nature, plants, trees. And I don't know this reason. But if there would not be a reason, I don't think it would be here.
Right. There is a reason. I mean, listen, it's interesting because if you look at certain people, right, like Einstein, Edison, people that have invented things, people that have become presidents, some of the most famous doctors in the world that have performed these surgeries and have come up with cures for things, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, these like really big Margaret Thatcher, these massive, massive public figures. Look at Princess Diana. I mean, she passed away unfortunately, very unfortunately, so many years ago, and people are so obsessed with who she was as a human, all of her humanitarian efforts. She was incredible. When she died, I could cry. I can't. I cried so much and so hard because she was so massive, not just to the UK, but to the world. She went to New York in the 90s when AIDS was like, you can't even go near anybody. And she would touch their hand and she would hug them. And she went to Harlem and went to see all these AIDS patients. And people were like, wow, like that's a big deal. So when you look at people like that, you're like, they had major, major purpose, right? They made an impact in the world. Not that we can't make our own small impacts. We all can, right? By volunteering, humanitarianism, working a nonprofit, all of those things. But at the same time, it's kind of still like this mystery. How did humans even get here? I don't know which theory I believe. I have no idea how the first human came to this on this earth. And then all of a sudden we procreated to 350 million people living in the United States and over 6 billion people in the world. I mean, I find that fascinating right there.
I don't know either. And coming back to life on its own is fascinating, right? Going back to the ant or an animal or a tree or the mountains or snow. Not to talk about human itself. There are so many things within us what's not further discovered yet, right? I think it's all starts with appreciating life and respecting life.
That's a great point. Well, also respecting yourself, right? Respecting yourself, respecting others, appreciation for life. Obviously, we don't talk about certain topics on here, religion, politics, those types of things, but it doesn't matter what side you're on. the world is in a little bit of chaos right now for a lot of different reasons. And it's not just the US, it's the world. So you kind of take a step back and you go, all right, let's take stock what's around me. And, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty right now. And I think that when incredible things happen around the world, and that's why sports, I believe that sports are so important because it brings people together. I am not someone who is a massive soccer, football fan at all. I grew up, so in Jamaica, same thing. It's called football. It's not soccer. And my dad coached this team. These guys were really good, the Eagle Strikers. They were excellent, actually. So I kind of was like, knew about it a little bit, got into it, but always, basketball and tennis growing up. I'm a massive, crazy tennis fanatic and basketball. So when the New York Knicks won the championship in June, my best friend, Amanda, who's been on here, FaceTime. I don't know how she put us all together. It was like 6 of us. We all answered. This was at like midnight on a Saturday night. We were all crying because I could cry. It reminded us of growing up and being in New York and the Knicks losing every freaking year, and being like, and we did it. It was like, and the world is like so chaotic. So like, we were like this little piece of like, and it brought all New York together. The crime is the lowest it's ever been. It was just like everyone came together. And there's this kid that made up this phrase, this Latino kid. He's so smart. He was like, my mayor's Muslim, my bagels are Jewish, and my Knicks are Catholic and mixed. And it's like all these things. And it's like, it just brings everyone together. And when Spain won, I thought it was incredible. I have Spanish blood. My Romanian blood really goes back to Spain and Portugal. So I kind of, piece of me was like, and Messi wins everything. So it's like, I want Spain to win. I want Europe to have something. They're having all these fires right now. There's all these things going on in Europe. They're having this insane heat wave. And for them to win, it was like, it was so cool to see Spain do it and to watch everybody like come together. So those things, I think, bring joy and meaning when you can find something together with other people that maybe you would normally not even be friends with, but something like a sport can bring you guys together, or maybe you have another subject or something in common, or maybe it's music. That's why concerts, which I don't like to go to often because I don't like being in a stadium with 35,000 people. But when I do, if it's something I really enjoy, like when I went to see Lady Gaga and her energy, and she plays all these different instruments and she's just so cool, I was like, wow, that's impressive. So who knows how we got here? Who knows where we're going? But like you said, just appreciate life. There's one of the biggest phrases in Jamaica is give thanks for life. Just give thanks for life every day. Even when you're having and things around you, or you just have to give thanks. That's my
Yes.
takeaway. Give thanks.
My takeaway is stop and smell the roses or pet the kitties.
Stop and smell the roses. That's great. And the kitties, I love it. Well, God bless you and me, Oliver, and all the kitties. And we love you. We hear you. We see you, everybody. One love.
Just a quick note before we end. This conversation is for inspiration and empowerment only. It's not medical, mental health, or legal advice. We are not doctors, therapists, or lawyers. Just women sharing real stories and personal truth. Always seek professional guidance for your unique situation.